I'm sorry this took so long. I'm also sorry to say that I had a small setback health-wise over the weekend, but we have course corrected and back on track. So I am going to see you all on Wednesday. This is just a brief video recap of the lecture that I did on Friday. A number of you missed class. I want everybody on the same page as we move forward. So this is the lecture that's in the folder, and I'm also going to be talking about this file called Adobe Max Poster, which is also in the exercise folder. All right, so let's start here. I want to talk a little bit about design flow. I want to talk about the fact that a good design, every good design in the world is a conversation between the designer and the viewer. And so if you look at this diagram, it's an important diagram because in the Western Hemisphere, we read from left to right and from up to down. Not the same way everywhere in the world, but we're talking about our place in the world right now. So when you're designing a single page like a poster, bear in mind this upper left-hand corner is the first place that people are going to go, and this lower right-hand corner is the last place. So if you're designing a headline, this might be a good place for a headline. If you're designing some branding or a call to action, like visit the website or buy tickets online, or this is the logo of the people who are hosting this event, maybe that should be where that goes. It's not that people aren't going to read these areas, these fallow areas, these less popular areas, but just know that the eye goes top left first, top right last. These are the ones you want to hit. This is where the important stuff goes. Primary important stuff, secondary important stuff, all right? That's really what I want you to take away from this. Remember your hierarchy. I want you to take a look at this file and decide what is the most important thing. I would say that the name of the event, the date, the who, what, where, like what is it? It's the Adobe Max Creativity Conference, and if you want to make this 2023, that's fine with me. The date and this little introductory copy, that's really important. And then come in here and take a look at this. This is the content. These are the session highlights, and you will notice, we'll go over this in class on Wednesday, every session has a name, a date, a time, the name of the person doing it, that person's credentials, a demo, a little, explanatory, this is what it's about. And then you have these three categories, the technical level, the type, and the category, whether it's how-to or mobile, industry best practice. This is so people can look at this at a glance and understand what they're doing. This all has to be sorted in terms of the hierarchy. We'll talk more about this on Wednesday, but I want you to start thinking about it. All right, it's time to start thinking about fonts. We're going to go for 2 fonts for this one. 2 fonts, one for the headline and one for the body copy. All right, and we're going to do faces that work well together. If you would prefer to use one font typeface, one family, you can. I'm not going to force you to use 2 fonts if you want to use one. I don't want you to use more than 2. But if you are going to use one, you got to pick a typeface family like this one that has all these different choices. Lots of variety. That's what we're going for. So just a brief recap. We have 3 different categories of type: serif, sans serif, and decorative or display. Sans serif is a more modern typeface. Serif is a more traditional typeface. It's generally used for body copy, and sans serif is generally used for headlines. Again, no hard and fast rules. You get to decide yourself. I'm telling you what the baseline is. If you decide you want to color outside the lines, that's up to you. There's also decorative, and this is the one I want you to stay away from. This is where we get into the fugly fonts, and so I want you to avoid them. All right? You're going to choose your main font, your headline font first. Then you're going to choose a second font to go with it that looks good with it. You want contrast. You want 2 fonts that don't look so matchy-matchy, so samey-samey, right? You want the eye to move. The eye has to travel across the page. So again, read through the lecture. I've got some notes here about choosing fonts. No fugly fonts. I don't want any display type fonts. They're difficult to read and they're trendy rather than good design. I don't want anything in your portfolio that looks trendy or gaffy or faddish. You know, we're not going to confuse fad with fashion here, okay? We want a well-designed piece. Places to go for fonts, you can go to Creative Suite, and we can do this in class, or you can go to Google Fonts when the day comes that your Creative Suite license no longer works. Font Squirrel is also a reputable one. Sia in class mentioned What the Font, which is another reputable one. We can talk more about that in class. Be wary of fly-by-night font manufacturers. You don't want to infect yourself with malware. All right, so now we're going to talk about the grid. The more columns that you have, the more flexible the grid becomes. You will notice that this is the same 6-column grid used in 6 different ways. So here we're using double columns. Here we're using, you notice that we're a little bit off the grid, but that's okay because mostly everything is on the grid. And then we're using this grid space for a caption. Here's a single column with a single image. Here's another double column where the image is cutting in. Do you see I really want you to start looking for grids when you look at work. And then I've got some examples here. Again, this is in the lecture folder. These are some, you know, maybe not the most exciting layout in the world, but my goodness, can I follow those directions easily? Because it's all gridded within an inch of its life. The grid is the cornerstone of good page design. All right, let's look at some examples. Here's an example of the BAM event calendar. So here are the events that are happening on these days, and then we go into event details. We've got the branding down here in this lower corner. You notice that up here, we've got the headline letting us know what's going on, upper left. Here's a bad example. This is a carnival ride, all right? We've got International Celebrations Week, but the image that talks about it being international is way down here. They're separated from each other. Like things go together on the page. If I was designing this, I'd take these 2 logos and put them down here in the lower corner. I'd move this illustration up so that it locks up with the headline. And for heaven's sakes, I wouldn't split the calendar. You know, you've got this idea of you start with the date and do the event, and they're splitting it on its head now just to give this symmetrical layout. That's ridiculous. All of these dates go over here. The form must follow the function. You don't get to move things around on the page to make it look pretty if it doesn't follow the function of an event calendar. All right. Here's another good one. And in this case, this is a table of contents, but it's kind of the same idea. Oh, no, wait. No, I'm wrong. This is another event calendar. But you notice that they're using typography as a decorative element on the page. And you can just run your finger down here and just figure out exactly what's going on. This is another travesty. Look at all the different fonts, all the different type sizes. The grid is completely higgledy-piggledy. I don't know where to go. This is a failure in terms of getting me through the layout. Communication breakdown. Here's one. Now, you might not love this one, but it's a strong example of the grid, strong typography. You can see them using this grid to kind of carve out these spaces. I like it. And again, headline up at the top, information down at the bottom. Another carnival ride. I've seen rugby scrums that were better organized than this. Good use of the grid, crazy use of color. The typography is all over the place. There's no white space. There's no pause. I'm pressed. I'm stressed when I look at this. I don't like it. These are some more student examples back when we did the BAM calendar instead of the MAX calendar. Strong use of the grid. Now in this case, look at this. The headline is up here on the right and the logo is down here on the left. They've swung it around. But I still think it's a strong example of what we're doing. So just to show you, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do it the way I'm showing you. But if you do go off script, make it strong. Make it so that, look at all the space they're giving this headline. So I'm absolutely drawn to this type. This is another piece of student work. I don't know how I feel about these kind of decorative elements hanging out here. I think it would be a stronger piece without them. But undeniably a pretty piece of typesetting. And again, they've got this big, strong headline. And again, going off script, they've got it in the lower corner. This is more of a traditional layout with the logo and the headline and the descriptor up here at the top. I would put a logo or the call to action, the URL down here. And again, I don't know if I'm crazy about this, but It's a pretty piece of typesetting right in here. The hierarchy of headline, name, title, body copy, category is nicely done. Here's a beauty. This shows that if you want to, you can turn your poster on its side. If you'd like, I have no issue with that. Nice, clear separation. This is the information about the event, and this is the event calendar. And you notice they're using these little icons as kind of a nod to the Adobe branding that you see, or that you used to see anyway, in Adobe products. They change their branding a lot. And here's the logo. If it was me, I'd probably put the logo down here in the lower right-hand corner, but they've got this kind of down here and they're going for it, and I respect that. So open up this file and take a look at it, get to know it. And for class on Wednesday, not do Friday, do Wednesday, sorry. You're going to open up that file, get to know it. There are some typos. I want you to start planning out the hierarchy of your page. What's the biggest thing? What's the smallest thing? Don't worry about graphics yet. Let's just think about the grid, and let's get some thumbnail sketches going. And I'd like you to come in with your typefaces ready. All right? I'm going to ask to see these things in class. If you have any questions, go ahead and Slack me. All right, I'll see you Wednesday.